Call it dihydrogen monoxide and tell people it's found in sewage, and even a drink of H2O can seem scary. That's why experts say that building trust in the science and in its messaging will be key to stopping the spread of the Delta variant and ending the pandemic. But when you're in a mental health crisis, fast, effective, and simple is exactly what you need. And with all of that holiday magic gathering near, you never know just who might appear. Justin, I'm out here at the paper mill in Rhinelander. Authorities are unable to talk to me, but there are police and firefighters on scene. You can see them behind me now. They've been in and out of the building. What they have been able to tell me is it appears to have been an appliance fire. The incident command system isn't just thinking about the problems now. They're thinking about the future.
Welcome. Your temperature is normal.
Good evening, I'm Cooper Henckel. July 30th marks 1 month since the murder of Hannah Miller. The young mother was shot to death, making headlines across the region. But like most stories, Miller's begins before the headline broke.
Oh, there she is.
Next to Lexi.
With her boots, her Ugg boots. She lived in Ugg boots, oh my God. And a Columbia.
Well, they were so cute back then.
Hannah Miller grew up in Rhinelander.
We've known Hannah since daycare. She was going to my grandma's daycare. Yeah. She walked in and she had this red hair and she was so pale. It's been like us 3 ever since, it feels so.
Kelly Lee, Allie Hoffine, and Lexi Hooven stayed close with Miller over the decades.
Homecoming? This was her senior homecoming.
Again with the Columbia.
Yeah.
Shortly after moving to Minneapolis in 2016, Miller met and began a relationship with Christopher Terrell Anderson, also known as Bravo. Friends say the relationship turned abusive after the couple were engaged, prompting a separation and Miller's return to the Northwoods in early 2020.
This was supposed to be a fresh start for her, this apartment, moving back from Minneapolis. She wanted to be closer to her family and her friends and for all of us to get to know Nova.
But friends say her new start took a turn for the worse.
He came for a visit to visit Nova because she still wanted Nova and him to have a relationship, and he never left. And this apartment kind of turned into a hellhole for her.
In the week leading up to Miller's murder, she told friends she was finally feeling free from Anderson's influence on her life after a year of readying to make her second break.
At one point I turned to her and I said, "Aren't you worried about Chris? We haven't heard from him. Aren't you scared? Don't you wonder where he is or what he's up to?" And she said, "No, this is the most free I felt from him in years." So to think she felt that way, and then he comes through like 72 hours later and just takes her life.
Hoffine was helping Miller move out of her apartment leading up to June 30th, 2021.
The only thing we had to finish is getting the bigger stuff out, which her family came over and helped her with on Tuesday. So Wednesday morning we were texting and she just had to grab the cable boxes and wipe off a few things.
When Seth Wakefield allegedly spotted Miller
And had gone and told Chris that she was at the apartment by herself. At that point, Chris had somebody else drive him to this location to drop him off.
Friends can only imagine what exactly happened between Wakefield's call and the discovery of Miller's body alongside Riverbend Road in the town of Pelican.
After Chris got her at the apartment, he drove down here, maybe trying to take some back roads to her parents' house to where he assumed Nova and her parents were. There were witnesses that saw them arguing on the side of this road, and the car was in the middle of the road with both doors open. And then the next time someone else drove by, Hannah was laying on the side of the road. So this is a memorial for Hannah. This is where she was found.
I was working at the salon. I work up in Eagle River, and my fiance had called me and said that there's a picture of Chris out on the news and that nobody had heard from Hannah.
So at that point, her family was like, "We'll call you right back." And then they called me back and they let me know it was Hannah. And I remember screaming, "Why would he do that?" And I didn't even know it was me doing that. I didn't even know it was me screaming.
I work in healthcare, so I don't have my phone with me when I work. So I knew when I got a call from him it was bad. And I just went in the break room and cried and cried and cried.
A devastation made worse as weeks went by without answers. Wakefield's arrest on July 2nd brought more confusion and pain to friends than the answers they had hoped for.
I've never heard of Seth. I didn't know Seth. I've lived here my whole life. Had no idea who he was.
Wakefield allegedly helped Anderson stalk Miller with the intention of killing Miller, her parents, and kidnapping Nova, Miller and Anderson's daughter.
And no amount of money makes it okay for you to decide that you could take a life. It's just so unfair.
Anderson's whereabouts remain unknown. Authorities found the PT Cruiser and Mitsubishi Outlander Anderson is believed to have taken after killing Miller on July 5th in St. Paul, Minnesota.
I want him to answer to Nova. And I think that's the real punishment, is you will have to look at that daughter you were willing to kill for and tell her, I was selfish, I was stupid. I had no regard for your mother's life, and I had no regard for yours. And that's the punishment he deserves.
While they search for a way to heal and keep Hannah's memory alive in the meantime.
I don't want this to get washed under, and then in a year people say, oh yeah, a year ago today that Hannah Miller girl passed. I don't want that. I want her name to continually be out there.
March 19th, 1980 was an extremely cold day when a local property owner went walking on his back property and found a body. He definitely was not dressed for the elements for that time of year. We're not sure if he was walking from one direction to the other. Maybe he was walking from Sugar Camp area to Rhinelander area, or vice versa. The one thing that we do know is that he did die as a result of hypothermia and exposure to the elements.
John Doe 1980 wore a thin scarf, earmuffs, and a corduroy jacket. But the most telling clue:
we looked at the shoes, and the shoes were very, very flat bottom, not appropriate walking shoes, especially on a highway during the winter time.
Explaining the head injuries and face-up condition of his body could be as simple as a common cause of death here in the Northwoods.
He probably was slipping and falling and probably struck his head on the ground.
Although there was no ID, John Doe 1980 had a few clues found on him. 2 keys in his pocket.
They appeared to be maybe house keys or cabin keys. They were loose, they weren't on a key ring.
A calendar from a union.
With the words International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. We feel that somebody does know something about that small calendar.
And a Hellbros watch.
Back in the 1980s, those were extremely expensive watches, kind of like the modern day Rolex.
Some potentially identifying information has been kept out of the media.
To do a better identification when we do figure out who he is and when we do find that family.
41 years later, the search for John Doe 1980 continues. In Oneida County, I'm Cooper Henckel.
When we initially shut down schools and businesses, there was tremendous support for that. 86% thought the shutdown was the right thing in March of 2020.
At roughly 2-1 in favor, Wisconsinites' changing memory of the shutdown seems to have affected the legislature's favorability more than the executive branch.
Governor Evers' job approval has held steady since last October of 2020.
Both senators at the federal level took a hit to their approval rating. Johnson's naysayers grew 6 points, while Baldwin's favorability fell 4.
And that's a bit of a drop for both of them, but a bit more of a drop for him, and puts him in negative territory.
Overall, Franklin says people feel their government is ineffective.
The public is pretty strongly sour on government, thinking it's broken at both the state and national level, thinking the state is off on the wrong track.
Data from March of 2020 showed 61% of voters said Wisconsin was headed in the right direction. A year and a half later, only 39% feel the same. An overwhelming 84% of respondents said the federal government is broken. That frustration appears to unify Wisconsinites on policy more than party politics down in Madison would suggest.
We are deeply divided by party on a lot of things, but there are areas where the public overlaps more than the deadlock that we see within the legislature and between the legislature and the governor.
Wisconsinites want more infrastructure spending, a higher minimum wage, and increased support for teachers and staff in schools. Priorities likely to shape who will run the state after next November. For Newswatch 12, I'm Cooper Henckel.